Thank you very much. Good afternoon. The board meeting of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and its component units is now called to order. Due to the advice from the states of New York and New Jersey, in-person attendance at today's meeting will be limited to commissioners and Port Authority staff, who are required to conduct the meetings. For all others, the meeting is being held virtually via teleconference with an audio being live streamed from the Port Authority's website. On June 9th, the Audit Committee and the Committees on Finance met in executive session. On June 16th, the Security Committee met in executive session. Earlier today, the Committees on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management met in public in executive sessions. The Committee of Finance met in executive session, and the Committees of Finance and Audit met jointly in the executive session. Their reports will be filed with the official minutes of today's board meeting. The Commissioners also met in executive session earlier today to discuss matters related to personnel and personnel procedures, matters involving ongoing negotiations or matters involving contracts or proposals, matters related to the purchase, sale, or lease of real property, wherein the disclosure would affect the value thereof or the public interest. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome, as we did at the executive session, our new commissioners, Commissioner Dana Martinotti, Commissioners Robert Menendez, and Commissioner Michelle Richardson. Also want to welcome back Commissioner Steve Cohen, back for his second time. Steve had served here from 2015 to 2016. As all the commissioners had welcomed the four new faces in executive, we say it here very publicly. We are thrilled to be a board with full 12 commissioners here. It is a long time coming. We welcome your energy, your experience, and it may be a little daunting the first meeting, but I will tell you that you will just absolutely come to do what the rest of us have. Fell in love with this place they call the Port Authority. It does the most magnificent work. It has the most magnificent personnel. It has the most magnificent mission statement of how they allow this hub of New York and New Jersey to be the epicenter of all things transportation. And the more you go out and meet and greet the folks who have made this place what it is, the more you will fall in love with the place they call the Port Authority. So welcome aboard, and we will set up an appropriate meet and greet in the next few weeks, and you'll really come to appreciate the lifeblood of the Port Authority, its employees that we love so much. Vice Chair?
Once again, you were so eloquent and spontaneous, I have nothing to add for a change.
We now have some staff tributes to recognize the actions which I think we don't do enough of. I think we should really embrace this part of our jobs. 4 Port Authority police officers at the Lincoln Tunnel on June 5th. They took specific action that potentially saved lives and obviously stood in and protected on behalf of the public safety. So we're going to hear from our superintendent, Ed Setnar, as he honors and salutes the 4 officers, Lieutenant Victor Talmini, Christopher Benavides, Alexander Duval, and Officer Christian Martez Uran. So with that, I want to thank the 4 officers personally on behalf of the board and on behalf of the executive director. We're actually staring at you right now virtually. Heartfelt thank you for doing what you do, and we appreciate all of our 2,000 strong policemen and women doing what you do every day. We can't thank you enough. Having said that, I pass it on to our superintendent, Director of Public Safety, Ed Setnar, to provide some further details.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman, Executive Director, Commissioners, fellow Directors, and Chiefs. Again, on behalf of the men and women, I need to thank you for this recognition and acknowledging the hard work during these very difficult times for the police officers and what they do each and every day out there. On June 5th at 6:49 in the evening, a call was received to the Lincoln Tunnel desk reporting a person or persons brandishing a handgun in a passenger vehicle that was traveling eastbound on the 495 Helix. Transmissions were made to police officers at the Lincoln Tunnel, providing the circumstances and description of the subject vehicle. As police officers canvassed the toll plaza, the Lincoln Tunnel dispatch further reported that the subject vehicle, a black Chrysler, was seen entering the center tube. Police Lieutenant Victor Talamini, along with police officers Christopher Benavides, Christian Uran, and Alexander Duval, entered the tube to mark police vehicles and initiated a high-risk motor vehicle stop. Under the direct supervision of Lieutenant Talamini and based on the totality of the reported circumstances, all 5 occupants were ordered out of the vehicle and were frisked for weapons. I will note to you that 2 of the passengers in the vehicle were also pregnant at the time, so we had the propensity of 7 folks in the vehicle with the 2 pregnant ladies in there. Lieutenant Talamini then directed Police Officer Aaron to conduct a check of the vehicle's interior, locating a silver and black 9mm Ruger handgun with 11 rounds in the chamber and 11 rounds in the ammunition in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. All occupants initially denied ownership of the weapon and were transported to the Lincoln Tunnel for arrest processing. Further interrogation and interviews of the subjects by Port Authority Criminal Investigation Bureau, our detectives identified the owner of the handgun. The suspect was then charged with weapon possession, handgun, aggravated assault, menacing due to the road rage incident, defacing a firearm, and possession of hollow point ammunition. The subject was also wanted out of North New Jersey on additional multiple warrants. Lieutenant Talamini and police officers Benavides, Aran, and Duval conducted the high-risk motor vehicle stop based on witness information. Their sound tactics based on their training experience allowed them to secure the suspect vehicle and safely take all suspects into custody until an in-depth investigation was completed and resulted in the arrest of the accused responsible for this action. Their decisive actions to the public safety and taking a handgun off the streets allowed our officers to end their tour and going home to their families. Today, more than ever, policing is an arduous task and a profession, but nonetheless, the Port Authority police officers continue to serve with pride, service, and distinction. For these reasons, these members of the force are being recognized today by the board for their actions and in accordance with the highest standards and traditions of the Port Authority Police Department. Joining me today with 3 of the officers, Officer Aaron is on vacation right now, is the Deputy Superintendent Louis Clark and Chief of Operations Emilio Gonzalez. And the deputy will read the recognition that's being presented for excellence in police work by the board. Deputy.
Thank you, Superintendent. The recognition award is for Lieutenant Victor Talamini Jr., Police Officer Christopher Benavides, and Police Officer Alexander Duval, who are all here present today. I'll read the citation now. In recognition of exceptional service in assisting with the apprehension and arrest of an individual who was in possession of an illegal firearm and ammunition during a traffic stop at the Lincoln Tunnel on Saturday, June 5th, 2021. Commissioners of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey hereby express to Lieutenant Talamini, Police Officer Benavides, and Police Officer Duval their sincere appreciation for their service to the Port Authority and the region it serves, and in particular for their outstanding performance in assisting with the arrest, ensuring the safety and well-being of the traveling public of the Lincoln Tunnel.
Chief Gonzalez will now present the commendations from the board for the officers. Chairman, Director, Commissioners, again, I thank you on behalf of all the men and women of the Port Authority Police Department for acknowledging the hard work that goes on each and every day. And I present to you the officers that we just acknowledged.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank the Lieutenant, and thank the 3 officers for their fine work. Really much appreciated. At this point, we asked to hear from our Executive Director, Rick Cotton, to provide his report and obviously detail some of the agency's response on the coronavirus. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and greetings, Commissioners. As we monitor progress on the regional recovery, I'm pleased to report that all of the Port Authority's facilities continue to operate at a very high standard, and the agency, of course, continues to follow the latest public health guidance from federal, state, and local authorities. As I always do and must do at the beginning of my reports, I want to express profound appreciation and gratitude to all Port Authority employees for their dedication and extraordinary hard work which they have provided throughout this crisis. And we continue to be grateful to the leaders of the 23 unions that represent the majority of our employees. Before getting into my report, I also want to offer a public congratulations and welcome to our new commissioners, Commissioner Martinotti, Commissioner Menendez, Commissioner Richardson, and Commissioner Cohen. Let me turn broadly to 2 areas in my report today. First is the impacts on the agency, and the second is 2 important milestones. Based on the week of June 14, 2021 to June 20th, 2021 at our airports, passenger volumes for that week were down approximately 44% compared to the pre-COVID June 2019 average. At PATH, average ridership for that week was down by approximately 2/3 compared to the pre-COVID June 2019 average at PATH. At our bridges and tunnels, overall vehicle traffic for that week was down 0.4%, essentially back at pre-COVID levels, a very welcome development. At the port, the seaport's May cargo volumes were up 23.8% over pre-COVID May 2019 levels, and this is the 10th month in a row for record-setting cargo volumes, and May 21 was the highest single-month volume in the Port Authority's history. Obviously, the supply lines coming into the region are in very healthy state. Now, the upward trend at our bridges and tunnels, the upward movement to 50% of pre-COVID levels at our airports, and the continued record-setting seaport cargo volumes all show, on a welcoming basis, upward movement. Indeed, I want to emphasize again that last week our bridges and tunnels were essentially at pre-COVID levels. However, the agency remains significantly below 2019 levels at PATH and the airports. And those low levels of operation, even though they're improving, continue to seriously impact both our operating revenues and our capital capacity. Our estimate of $3 billion in lost revenue from the end of Q1 2020 to Q1 2022 remains valid. With respect to the impact of the coronavirus on Port Authority employees, as of this Monday, June 21st, the level of new cases and the number of employees in quarantine continue to decline dramatically, and they are at the lowest levels since the pandemic began. As of Monday, 3 Port Authority employees reported testing positive to COVID-19 in the last 3 weeks, definitively the lowest rate in 15 months. We continue, of course, to follow each one of these cases to assure that the individuals are receiving any and all medical care that they need. 32 employees are currently self-quarantining, which is the lowest level since March of 2020. These are very encouraging workforce statistics. Finally, the percentage of the agency's workforce that is vaccinated continues to grow, reflective of the high rates across the region. Now let me report on 2 important project updates, one at the Midtown Bus Terminal and one at LaGuardia Airport. At the Midtown Bus Terminal, we have formally started the federal environmental review process for the replacement Midtown Bus Terminal project. That review process commenced 3 weeks ago on June 4th with the FTA's publication of its notice of intent to prepare an environmental impact statement. The NOI kickstarts a 45-day period of public comment. It concludes on July 19th. The 45-day period will include 4 virtual public scoping sessions, 2 of which happened yesterday and 2 of which will take place today. Public comment has been an integral element of the bus terminal's design process. The final design, based on substantial input from both bus riders and the community surrounding the bus terminal, will provide expanded capacity, remove commuter buses from local streets, and provide much-needed green space to the community. The new Midtown Bus Terminal also will be the most technologically advanced bus terminal in the world, incorporating planning for electric buses, autonomous vehicles, and artificial intelligence capabilities to enhance traffic management. At LaGuardia Airport, activation of the outer roadway of Terminal C 6 months ahead of schedule will contribute dramatically to improved traffic flow at the airport. On June 3rd, 6 months ahead of schedule, the agency announced the activation of the outer roadway at Delta's future Terminal C. This is a major completion achievement and is a key element of the $625 million airport roadway network that will dramatically reduce roadway congestion and traffic delays that for too long have plagued LaGuardia. The new 8.4-mile roadway network will feature 26 new bridges and flyovers, replacing 15 older bridges and flyovers, and it will eliminate most on-airport traffic signals. The 6-month acceleration was due to the projects capitalizing on the significant reduction in passenger activity at LaGuardia. Finally, to comment on the World Trade Center and its trend to return to normalcy, the Port Authority has followed through on our commitment to once again make the World Trade Center a campus, a vibrant hub of commercial and community life in downtown Manhattan. As COVID-19 restrictions have loosened and vaccination rates have increased, the campus is now featuring a wide range of in-person activities throughout the summer, including musical performances, food bazaars, art installations, and colorful lighting displays. We look forward to a continued upward progress in terms of utilization of the World Trade Center campus. And that, Mr. Chairman, concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. Despite some of the numbers, particularly out of aviation and PATH, it's clear to me that the world is starting to come back, and we're starting to realize the world that we experienced back in 2019. In the next couple of weeks, we have a return to work. We're looking forward to the employees coming back in a safe manner. We're having a live meeting here with our commissioners, evidence that we're trying to get back and focus on the really important work in a safe and reasonable manner. So I want to thank you, Rick, for your leadership throughout this pandemic, for leading the agency in a very safe and responsible manner. And we're here today with the numbers we saw in executive with Mary Lee about the lowest number of COVID employees, largely because of the leadership that you and senior staff have taken 15 months ago. And we thank you for it. Any comments or questions from any of the commissioners to our executive director? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move ahead. In terms of our speakers program, we've received 4 written statements, which include 2 video statements. The written and video statements will be filed with the transcript of today's board meeting and posted on the Port Authority website. I'll point out that according to notes I've received prior to the meeting, that those statements were not related to any of the items for the board approval. Secretary, is that accurate? The letters,
correct.
Responses, videos are not relative to any members, things that we're voting on today.
That's correct.
Right. And are we playing 2 of the videos now? Is that okay? Can you proceed to play them, Jim?
Dear Commissioners, we all know what happened on September 11, 2001, the terror attacks at the World Trade Center. Across the street from the World Trade Center, the complete destruction of a well-known, important, and much-loved Greek Orthodox church, St. Nicholas. Finally, this September 11, 20 years later, Greek Americans and many others will gather around the new St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church and National Shrine to celebrate the completion of its exterior. As of right now, something all-important will be missing. As you see here, on September 11, 2001, when St. Nicholas was destroyed, 2 flags were flying outside, both the American and Greek flags, as they frequently did for the many, many years St. Nicholas was there on Cedar Street. As I and others have been informed by a senior official at the Greek Archdiocese, so far you, the Port Authority's commissioners, refuse to allow 2 flag poles to be placed outside of the new St. Nicholas, to fly the American and Greek flags and flags of other nations of goodwill on special occasions. This is a callous, unjustified decision by the Port Authority to, in fact, cancel Greek American identity at the new St. Nicholas, as only these 2 flag poles can accomplish. Cancel culture is not a valid way to create an even better America and New York, nor deny Greeks and Greek Americans the identity that is their right, nor dishonor the reality of St. Nicholas Church and its destruction and a refusal to address the issue. You had an obligation as representatives of all of us and as public officials to host a public hearing, be it virtual or in person, better both, in the coming weeks, while there is plenty of time for 2 flag poles to be erected in time for this September 11th. A hearing to take testimony from all those interested before deciding whether to issue a permit for 2 flag poles or not, in a formal vote by all the Port Authority commissioners. Stop hiding behind your silence. You have no right to do so.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Commissioners of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. My name is Ines Garcia-Keim. I am an employee of United Airlines, and I also serve as the president of the New Jersey State Council of Machinists, AFL-CIO. I am respectfully addressing you today to bring to your attention flagrant misconduct and disregard of Port Authority regulations by United Airlines at Newark Liberty International Airport and other Port Authority properties. Specifically, for the past 2 years, United Airlines has refused to comply with the Port Authority minimum wage rules as adopted by the board on September 27, 2018, that require contractors to grant its workers a paid holiday for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Given the time limitations for this video testimony, I have also submitted for your consideration a more detailed statement in writing with my colleagues, Mr. Richard Creighton, Assistant General Chair of District 141 of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, and Mr. William Gula, President of Local 914 of the IAM-AW. Our written statement quotes the relevant parts of the rules. United Airlines is aware of these rules and have been notified by Mr. Creighton of their breach of the law, but they have chosen to ignore the implementation of these rules and comply with its provisions. We believe that United, as an operator and contractor, is bound by the rules and regulations promulgated by the Port Authority. Our written statement also describes our efforts over the past 2 years to resolve this problem using standard channels, such as filing grievances with United, which they have dismissed, and writing to the Port Authority Inspector General and to elected officials. We have been waiting for answers from Governor Murphy's staff for close to 3 months, and from the Port Authority Inspector General for 11 months. We respectfully ask that you, as the governing body of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, investigate this violation of Port Authority rules and compel United Airlines to comply with the law and provide a paid holiday for Martin Luther King Jr. Day and order back pay for the affected workers. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Jim, does that complete the written and video statements?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed with the voting of items for today's, for the board's consideration. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide a brief report prior to the matter being considered today. As chair of the Committee of Operations, I'll now present for consideration an item that authorizes a lease supplement with the U.S. General Services Administration, acting on behalf of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection and the U.S. Department of the Interior Fish and Wildlife Service for the continued lease of an office, warehouse, and ancillary space in Building 1210 in the Elizabeth Port Authority Marine Terminal. The supplement provides for a 2-year lease extension while negotiations for a longer-term lease are being finalized. The additional rental revenue to the Port Authority over the extended period of time is approximately $4.4 million. Prior to making a motion, I ask the Corporate Secretary to note any recusals by commissioners.
There are no recusals.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinotti?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacino?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
As the vote's in order, the item has been approved. Moving ahead, Vice Chair Linford is Chair of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management. We now provide your report and present the item to the board for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, I will now report on an item that was reviewed with the committee earlier today. The item authorizes environmental, planning, and preliminary engineering for the Port Authority Bus Terminal Replacement Project at an estimated amount of $80 million. Final planning efforts will move forward as two separate phases, phases 2 and 3, which will advance concurrently. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals required.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on the item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinati?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe? Commissioner Menendez?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacino?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
As the votes are in order, this item is approved, and I turn it back to our chairman.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Commissioner McKay, as Chair of the Committee on Audit, will you please provide your report on the item before this board for its consideration?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Audit Committee, I wish to recommend a resolution authorizing the retention of the agency's external auditors for 2021. This will be a vote of the Audit Committee members only. By way of background, KPMG LLP was retained in 2019 as external auditors on the basis of a competitive solicitation selection process. The retentions provided that, subject to annual retention, as determined by the Audit Committee, such services may be extended through 2025. The committee, consistent with its responsibilities under the bylaws and its committee charter, and after due review of KPMG's qualifications and performance to date, has determined to retain KPMG LLP as independent auditors for the audit for the year ending December 31st, 2021. I also wish to note that for the 2021 audit engagement, certain non-financial statements-based services, including contractually required audit services, will continue to be provided by Mitchell Titus, a Port Authority certified minority and women-owned business enterprise, in furtherance of agency's MWBE goals. Prior to making a motion on this item, I would ask the Corporate Secretary to note any committee member recusals on this matter.
There are no recusals.
Do any commissioners have any comments? I now request a motion from a committee member who is not recused on this item for a motion.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll of the committee members present for voting on this item.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
As the votes are in order, the item is approved. Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner McCabe. There being no further business, I move to adjourn. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.